And good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza live here on the 12-Ounce Sports Network. Yours truly, Captain Lou, here in the chair with you until 2 o'clock Eastern Time this afternoon on this 29th of April, 2020. Glad to have you as a part of my afternoon, and I'm glad we could be a small part of yours here as we all try to still get through this pandemic and everything else that's going along with it. If you're just starting your lunch hour on the Central Time Zone or maybe a late lunch here on the East Coast, we're glad to have you. And also out on the West Coast, getting through your morning here on this Wednesday, again, the 29th of April. We're going to wrap up our talk here this afternoon on the NFL draft that was held this past weekend. We'll give you, again, some of our winners and losers. Maybe we'll run down the first round of the draft. A lot of need picks, a lot of very good picks, a few head scratchers, but again, we'll put a bow on it as far as what we think of that. Our topic of the week, I guess, stemming from the Last Dance documentary that's going on right now on ESPN, parts 3 and 4, having to deal with the bad boy era, the evolution maybe of Dennis Rodman, his antics, if you will, and Phil Jackson, how he dealt with it. But a lot of the talk this past few days, and it doesn't seem to go away, but we're going to maybe try to put a bow on that as well this afternoon, is the talk of the animosity, if you will, between Michael Jordan and Isaiah Thomas. And you know, the talk now is Michael still jealous of Isaiah? It's funny, is a lot of people are really banging on the Pistons, and I can see some of it. And, you know, they're crashing the party. They crashed the party, if you will, in the late 80s with Boston and L.A. And then, of course, the chosen one, Michael Jordan, coming up. And, you know, let's face it, he is one of the best, if not the best, ball player of all time in the NBA. But now the topic is turned, really. Are the Pistons still in his head? And 30 years later, and I think kind of they still are. Michael Jordan, he is a competitor. I've yet to see anybody in this day and age. Maybe you can say Tom Brady. Maybe you can say LeBron James. The level that Michael competes on with everything, not just in basketball, and you can see it in that documentary. You know, for what he called Isaiah, and I'll go back to it, and I stick to this. If all that is the reason that MJ is calling Isaiah an a-hole is because he wouldn't shake his hand, well, that's pretty petty. There's more to it than that. There's got to be. And you know that he resents the fact that Detroit had the better of him for 4 years, right up until they finally were able to climb that mountain and become the kings of basketball. Detroit, in all right, should have been 3-time defending champions if it weren't for that bogus phantom call on Laimbeer against Jabbar in '88. But during that run, Detroit beat Michael in 5. He beat him in 6, beat him in 7. He had no help. The almighty Scottie Pippen with the migraine, and then their mental weakness before that, physical weakness. Detroit was superior to them physically and mentally, as was Boston for a while. And so Michael had to get tougher. But if you look at the records, Isaiah 36-29 all time against Michael. And that's eating away at him. It has to be. And again, like I said, for what he called him on the documentary was just solely because of him not shaking his hand. And then, Michael, he's not as mentally tough as I thought he was. And, this baggage still carrying to this day, he's got that hatred towards him. That, to me, is the competitive fire in him. And he resents that Detroit with Isaiah and Bill Laimbeer and Joe Dumars and Dennis Rodman and John Sally, all of them. They had that over him for 4 years before he finally was able to overcome it. And that eats away at him. And I think part of it is jealousy. And you can say what you want. That still eats away at him. And I think that's part of it. But it leads to my question that I've posted on my Facebook page and also on Twitter, which is @TheRealCaptainLou. Name me some of your most disliked teams now, in the past. And you can tell a lot of them are the New York Yankees. A lot of my friends, it's the Packers, Michigan, Notre Dame. And, a lot of it is because they've enjoyed a lot of success. The Boston Celtics. It looks like the Yankees and the Patriots really, along with the Packers, are leading the way. The Redskins, you name it. In hockey, it's the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Detroit Red Wings. A lot of that is associated with winning. People get tired of seeing people win all the time, and they sense a level of arrogance. I gave you mine yesterday. The Chicago Bulls are mine. They were 30 years ago, and this documentary kind of rekindled it a little bit. The Colorado Avalanche were rivals of mine that I despise. The Boston Celtics from the 80s and then beyond, and even before that. But there is a level of respect. It's doesn't mean I like them, but those are my most disliked teams from previous and now. I mean, right now, for me, it's difficult because my team's right now, being a Detroit fan in all sports, it's tough because we're not that relevant. We haven't had a rivalry that, I don't know, I guess my closest rival right now would have to be probably the Boston Red Sox for what they did to Detroit 5 years ago, snatching that series away from them. I've never really been a Red Sox fan. One of the reasons I've never liked them is it seemed like they always whined, kind of like the Bulls did before they beat the Pistons. The Red Sox and their fans always whined about the Yankees being the evil empire, and they've been buying their way in. But they've never been able to do anything to overcome that. Well, they finally did. And so it took them a long time. You used to listen to them whine and, be and moan in the 70s and 80s and 90s. They would get close but never could do it. They get to the World Series and they choked their way out of it, i.e. Bill Buckner. And, they've had their opportunities and they could never finish the job. Whereas, teams like the Yankees were able to do it. And I guess that kind of leads I'm not a big fan of the Dodgers. They get close. They're always anointed as the team, and they can never finish the job. The Yankees are starting to be that way. And, I'm always going to have some level of dislike for the Yankees just because they're the Yankees. The the East Coast bias always thinks the world revolves around New York and Boston. And it's funny is I don't think that it's going to be, the sun always comes up, even if the Yankees or the Red Sox or the Patriots or the Giants or the Knicks aren't in the respective national title picture or in the championship game. If that were the case, the NBA would have been ruined 35 years ago because the Knicks haven't really been relevant since 1972. They've made a couple of appearances. They had their chance in the mid-'90s, but then they've gone down in such a tailspin in the last 20 years that why they're as relevant as they are is beyond me. So, but anyways, that's kind of a touch on that. We're going to go over the major sports that are looking to, again, try to get their seasons done and the start times for the seasons coming up. You hear new plans now with baseball and football and hockey and basketball. They're trying. Is it really feasible, though? We'll talk about that. And, some of the other things we're going to touch on. The NCAA, another 5-star commit has bolted for the G League and for the money. And now the NCAA, ironically enough, has come out with this plan that they may try to implement starting next year, which could give the players, their athletes, a way to make money off of their likeness, which I think is long overdue. I'm not a fan of the NCAA paying their players, but I've warmed up to the idea now where if they can get out and get their likeness, make money off their likeness, do commercials, get paid by a dealership, whatever, for a commercial or autographs or whatnot, I don't have an issue with that. As long as it's not coming directly from the university, because I still think they're getting paid handsomely by the universities as far as their scholarships. And if they don't take advantage of that, then shame on them. Now, I know they're bringing the universities in a lot of money, but if they can't take advantage of a $200,000 education, that everything that comes with it, I mean that's kind of a craw in my book. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll dive into those. We're going to be on until 2 o'clock Eastern time, so don't go anywhere. You're watching the Captain Lou Extravaganza live here on the 12-Ounce Sports Network.
Esports are here to stay. Go to jazzsports.ag, log into your account, and look for our new esports section on the top of your screen. Browse through all the different available matches and watch them live with our exclusive esports betting platform. Get instant access to game results, pending and graded bet reports, outright bet types, and upcoming match schedules, all at the easy reach of your fingertips. Jazz Sports puts you in the game.
Drinkade, ready for distribution worldwide.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Captain Lou Extravaganza live here on the 12-Ounce Sports Network. Glad you could be with us here on this Wednesday afternoon, the 29th of April, as we roll along here. One of the things we talked about before the break was we're going to, again, it's almost a daily conversation right now with the way sports are in our society with nothing really going on. The NFL draft, of course, was last weekend. We will touch on that here in a little bit. But I wanted to bring this up. The USA Today came up with the latest plan that the Major League Baseball, or the MLB, is looking at possibly implementing starting at the end of June or possibly July. And they're looking at going maybe to a 3-division format with 10 teams in each region or division. And it's starting to gain a little bit of traction. They're looking at a possible start of July 4th, which is something that I've been kind of advocating throughout the last 6 weeks. If they do indeed get the season underway, I don't see how they could do a full season, 162 games. I think that idea for this year is pretty much squashed because right now with May 1st coming up, Friday, the league is going to need at least a month. Even if they were to decide Friday to say, you know what, we're going to get things going, it's going to take at least 3 to 4 weeks for the players to get in reasonable shape. But, of course, that's not going to happen. But this plan right now, I kind of like it. If it is indeed feasible to salvage the season with 3 10-team divisions, and the caveat with this is that the teams would still play in their own ballparks in front of no fans, at least to start, and the travel would be limited to their region. You've got the East with the Yankees, Mets, Red Sox, Nationals, the Orioles, Phillies, Pirates, Blue Jays, the Rays, and the Marlins all in one division. And then in the Central, you've got the Cubs, the White Sox, the Brewers, the Cardinals, the Royals, the Reds, Indians, Twins, Braves, and Tigers. And then in the West, you got the Dodgers, the Angels, the Giants, the A's, the Padres, the D-backs, the Rockies, the Rangers, the Astros, and the Mariners all in that division. And then you would have neutral site playoff games in November. I don't know what they would do how many teams would get in. I'd have to look, more deeper into that if they're going to take the top 4 teams in each division, which, may work, or something where, the top, 16 teams maybe out of those and do a round robin, like a bracketed tournament where they could do seeding and whatnot. I think that would be kind of an interesting idea. And they would they would be at neutral sites in November and then have the World Series in some, in a neutral site location come December. Now, I think, on the surface, it's fun. It would be a fun tournament. I also saw something this morning. Jeff Passan from ESPN said about a 20-day, just a bracketed tournament in October where everybody would be involved, like a 2 out of 3 tournament where everybody from the Tigers to the Yankees, and they would do it would be 20 or 30 days, and just like some type of bracketed format at the end of the year. If this particular format, or if it was too soon to do this. So I know the sporting leagues are looking really to try to do this. They're trying to salvage some type of a season. Hockey and basketball, time's running out. And I honestly don't know if it's feasible. I would love to have it. I really would. But you're looking into May, like I said. The neutral site facilities, if they start in July, I'm almost to the point now where I think you're going to probably see the NHL and NBA scrap the rest of the season. There's other things that you've got to look into this with the NHL and the NBA. I'm going to take the NHL, for example, and we had Tyler Marcotte on last night on the program and talking all things NHL, and he brought up a great point, because if you're going to start the season back up, let's just say June 15th, just picking the name out. So you've got the season starting, and let's say they finish the regular season in 2 weeks or whatever. So then you've got July 1st. You start the Stanley Cup playoffs. You're going into August. When are you going to hold the NHL draft? Let's say they push it back to August 1st. Normally it's in June, and the reason I ask is you get some of these high-profile college athletes that are drafted. Let's say the Red Wings get the first pick, or whoever, the Ottawa Senators or whoever, they get the 3rd and 4th pick. They draft a stud out of the University of Maine or North Dakota or whatever that still has eligibility left. If you have this draft in August, school's starting back up. Should it start? So, and the NCAA season start, the junior season starts. These kids have to declare then whether they're going to stay with the college or whatever team they're with, or do their window to make that decision is next to nothing. So I guess, is it worth it? Do these teams really want to do that? So, and then that's just one aspect which I think could be a potential roadblock. Do they make this decision in 2 weeks? They give them 10 days to make this decision. Do they stay in school? Do they decide to go through with it and play in the minors with their prospective clubs? Or do they, the number one draft pick, say if it's Lafreniere, that is kind of is what it looks like it's going to be for the Red Wings as their number one pick. They've got decisions to make. Do they want to do this? So, I mean, there's a lot of variables with that. And, again, with the draft order, let's say that it's, if they don't move, they've got to move the draft if they decide to play the season, because you've got teams like Detroit Detroit's a bad example right now because I don't think they're going to overtake anybody in the overall standings in the NHL. I think that they're going to probably stay in last, so they'll get the most ping pong balls. But you've got other teams that are jumbled together right at the border of making the playoffs. Nashville, Toronto, as crazy as it sounds, Colorado. Some of these teams, there's such a close logjam. They could go anywhere from fourth from the bottom up to 12th. They could make it to the Stanley Cup playoffs, and then who knows from there. So there's a lot of variables with that. Now the NBA, again, they're going to open up training facilities starting next Friday. That's their goal on the 8th, 7th or 8th. In the respective states that will allow it and cities. Now, you've got some states that have not been shut down, and some of these players have already been able to do their own workouts, like North Dakota, Nebraska, whatever. But they're going to start that. What is that going to lead to? Is that just a phase to when they start? Is basketball really going to be able to do it? But here's my big question with all of this, and I said this yesterday. And, before we get to that, today I read that they're still going ahead with the PGA Tour. The LPGA, they're going to start back up, it looks like, in mid-July here in Michigan, with their first tour stops going to be in Midland, the Great Lakes Bay Classic. So their target date is the middle of July. The PGA is still, it looks like, going through with June 8th as their first stop with no fans. So, and NASCAR with North Carolina announcing that they're still, as of right now, April the 29th, going through with their plans to have the Coca-Cola 600 with no fans in the stands. So they're going through it. So we're starting to see a little breakthrough. But here's my big question. And, I posted this, and, I'll go through it again. Is it still logistically possible to do all this with the testing? Now, I heard this with the NFL, in college. Well, we'll use the NFL, for example. Are they going to have that much of an accessibility to testing? Especially with what's going on still in our country with the availability or lack thereof of tests for, the average Joe who might be sick. Or, where are they going to come up with 10,000 tests a week for the NFL? So, what is the look going to be for sports if they have that, as opposed to the, like I said, the average testing? You've got the colleges. How are they going to do it? I just think that as much as I want sports, and I'm still hopeful that they do it, there's a breakthrough of some sort here in the next 30 to 45 days. Is it enough time? Should we just scrap it and say, hey, you know what? Let's just do this. Let's start the NHL in December. We'll go through July next year. Let's just wipe the slate clean and let's just start. It's unfortunate that the NBA and the NHL couldn't finish their year, but I think it's a bad look right now. I mean, I'm all for the opportunity to play it, but I just think logistically with the testing, are they going to be able to do it? Are they going to have enough? And what is the look going to be for the NBA to do that? Hey, again, it's a distraction. and I think it's something. It's a getaway for a lot of people. I know that they can put their troubles behind them for a couple hours to watch some of these games, or if it is the NBA and the NHL, I'm sure they'll package it in a way where there'll be games where you can spend the day or two watching them. Major League Baseball the same way, because if these do come to fruition, they're going to be televised, because this is going to be their source of revenue, that being the major sports. It's their only source of revenue. But with that, again, comes the chances. Are we as an economy ready to be able to do that? I love the concept of Major League Baseball doing this. I think it would be exciting. It's something new. It's something fresh. And it would be a lot of fun to watch that. But from a realistic standpoint, are they going to be able to do it? And I just don't think they're going to. That's my biggest worry. And I'm 50-50 on it whether it's going to happen. I would love it, but I just don't see it. And, another aspect, you're talking about seasons opening, and again, I know we're redundant with this, but it's a topic on everybody's mind, is what about the college sports? You've got the Power Five, which wield a lot of weight when it comes to athletics and as far as with the schools. It's such a source of revenue that I know that they are going to exhaust every means possible to get college games on, the football especially, because they are such a moneymaker and they're the backbone for these athletic departments. They can probably swing it not having fans in the stands. But again, this raises a question. I know a lot of they're looking to try to get it so they open up for some sort of training camp in July for college football, or August 1st. They want a training program before they have practices or whatever. But here's the pushback. So they're going to open up the training facility, but you've got schools that are already looking at the possibility. They're getting their game plans in place to have virtual instruction through January. Michigan State, Wayne State, they've come out and said, they've got they're putting together a plan B, because, the closer we get, the sooner they're going to have to make a decision. So it all goes back to, all right, if it's not safe enough for the students to come back and live in the dorms, or the workers to be there, or whatnot, how is it safe for the athletes or the coaches and the people behind the scenes? Where's the testing going to come for just the athletes if it's not deemed safe enough to do it? This is my big caveat, is the testing. When it's not available for the public, when you can't even go in to get an elective surgery for a gallbladder or whatnot, what's the look going to be in the long run? And that's kind of one of the things that I worry about. So these plans are great, and I love them. Baseball, football playing October to possibly the end of February. It's something new. It would be exciting for me as a broadcaster and as a fan to watch it. But again, the way where our country sits right now, where you can't even go in to a restaurant to pick up takeout, or go into a large public place without wearing a mask. At least that's how it is in Michigan. How is that? It just seems like a pipe dream right now. And unless there's some major breakthroughs, I know they're gradually trying to do things here in Michigan anyways. But when we have that, I just don't know how that's possible. So anyways, getting to the NFL draft, we've been talking about that. We're going to try to put a bow on it here. And you look at what some of the teams and how well some of the teams have done. We've kind of gone through the first round draft picks, if you will, and there's been, I think that you look at the top of the draft again, Joe Burrow, Chase Young, no-brainers, that type of thing. Miami, I thought, really did well. They played their cards right. I honestly thought that, if you're a poker player, they were very close to the vest. They didn't, I thought they played it well. They've got Tua. They've got, they were able to get offensive line help. I really thought that they played it very, very well. And I'm looking at some of the people, some of the grades that the teams have gotten. And I look at the picks of the first round. Arizona at number 8, they surprised me by not getting a offensive lineman. But when you've got Isaiah Simmons sitting there at 8, I really love the pick. And I think he's going to be an immediate starter for them, and they were able to get line help. They made a believer out of me with that. The Ravens, I love their draft. The Ravens, they're a team that didn't have to pick someone to start right away, but getting Patrick Queen at the end of the first round to me was, I'm not going to say he fell into their lap, but I'll tell you what, it was a great pick for them. And he fits right into their mold. And I like the J.K. Dobbins pick. Is he better than Jonathan Taylor? That's a debate that we're going to see play out, obviously. But I love their draft. The Chargers, I was a little surprised with. A lot of people are saying they did very well. The Herbert pick, obviously, was a great pick. I like that pick. I was a little surprised with what they did at the end of the first round, but I think that getting Herbert, obviously, and they didn't have to trade up. Now, I went on the draft last week on our show, and I still thought that night that Detroit was still going to make a trade down, maybe with Miami or the Chargers. I thought Detroit's draft was very solid, but and I think now it's put up or shut up time for Matt Patricia. I will defend him. I don't, I think he's gotten rid of some people that didn't want to be there, that didn't buy into a system, but this is his third year. And there is no excuse for what Detroit did last year, except for maybe Stafford being hurt. But once he was gone, man, you could tell it just wasn't the same team. They've got the weapons. There's no excuse for Detroit to be 3-12-1. That is a 9-win team right there, a 10-win team with the potential to go to the playoffs. How Green Bay got 13 wins with that team last year is that's still a mystery to me. Somewhat smoke and mirrors, but when you've got Aaron Rodgers, he's going to give you 3 or 4 wins that you weren't expecting. That's a winning culture. But what Green Bay did in the draft still surprises me a little bit. Okay, it surprises me a lot. And, you're hearing reports already of friction between Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers. And, Matt LaFleur, it's his team, and he's kind of getting tired of Aaron Rodgers' act. It's just, you can look at it with both sides with this argument with the Green Bay Packers. I mean, you look over the years, what have they drafted for him? Especially they've been on the cheap, on the defensive side of the ball. And now, you look at their drafting strategy in the past, he's never gotten a first-round draft pick as a skilled position player since he was drafted back in 2005. And now it's 2020, and this is the next draft. Their skilled position player is his heir apparent as of right now. And there was so many wide receivers out there for the taking. And they waited and waited and waited. And I just, if you're Aaron Rodgers, you got to be wondering now, is his fragile ego, and is he going to learn from that, and is he going to mentor Jordan Love? Or the next question is, should he have to? And I really don't think that he has to. Because I think Jordan Love, if he's as smart as he'll learn from him. He's not going to have to play for a couple of years. Now, Green Bay is, it is so, this is such a bad word to say because they're not really saddled by it. But even if they entertain thoughts of getting rid of him, there is so much dead cap money on Aaron Rodgers the next couple of years. I believe it's a combined almost $80 million. 40-some million this year and $31 million next year in dead cap money with Aaron Rodgers. If they indeed if they don't want him, or if he's not going to be in LaFleur's plans. But it's kind of a head scratcher. But if you look back at LaFleur, and is the honeymoon going to be over with him? No, I had a chance. I listened to somebody today, and I looked at some of his stats. Wherever he was at, I look at where he was at as a defensive or an offensive coordinator or whatever. Their offenses weren't exactly lighting it up. And he's gone now to Green Bay. He's the man right now. And their offense, I thought, kind of took a step back. Now, he didn't exactly have world beaters for weapons. I mean, he's got Devontae Adams, Geronimo Allison. He's not there anymore. He went to Detroit. Their running tandem isn't going to exactly strike the fear of God in you by any stretch. But I think Green Bay's moves were head scratchers, along with the Raiders. Henry Ruggs, he's a speedster. He's going to fly. But is he a route runner like CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy? And my answer to that is no. And I think if they're going to go that route, they could have went to one of those two receivers ahead of him. Now, I had them planned on taking him in the draft because they are taking a wide receiver because I thought they moved in and, they're moving into that new facility and they're moving to Las Vegas, the glitz and glam. They're going to want to make a name. That's going to be the spotlighted franchise, I think, with, in the NFL. They're going to want to showcase them along with LA, the two biggest and brightest facilities, arenas, whatever. So it is now, it's their time to shine. And that 19th pick, Arnett from Ohio State, that to me is a huge head scratcher. Why waste a first-round pick when they could get him probably in the third round? That one's a mystery to me. As far as some of the other teams in the draft, I love the Cleveland Browns, what they did. And to me, getting Conklin on one side from Tennessee, local guy here out of Michigan State, and getting Wills to anchor the other side, Cleveland's loaded. Their only weakness, if they have one, might be linebacker play. But their defense is nothing to sneeze at. If I were to look right now at the AFC, especially their division, you've got Baltimore, I think, another team that is loaded, and I think they're going to be a playoff-worthy contender for years with Lamar Jackson and that defense, and they had a great draft as well. But how can you not look at Cleveland and say, well, they're the second-best team in that division? Pittsburgh, there's a lot of variables right now. Is Roethlisberger going to be healthy? Can you count on James Conner? Their defense, I mean, it's good, but you look at the weapons that Cleveland has. And if Baker Mayfield can play like he did his rookie year, then, how can you not look at them as a potential wildcard team? Especially now that they're expanded to 7 playoff teams in each division or each conference. I love the draft for Cleveland, but it's put up or shut up time. I love what the Cowboys did. We all sat here on draft night thinking, well, they're going to go defense, and then you've got CeeDee Lamb pretty much falling into your lap at 17. How do you not take him? So there's no excuses for Baker Mayfield or for Dak Prescott. If I was Dak, I'd sign that tender. And I know he wants long-term security, but he signs the franchise tag this year, and then again next year, he's going to make close to $40 million a year. With the TV deal that's going to come out and the salary cap is going to go up, my goodness, he could he should take a page out of oh, for God's sakes, quarterback from Minnesota is drawing a blank right now. Kirk Cousins. He should take a page out of his playbook, and to me, gamble on himself, because if he wants that $40 million, he'll get that in 2 years easy. But if he's going to I don't personally don't think he's worth it, but that's the stage he's at. He could sign that, and because he's got the weapons. If there was any time for the Cowboys, in my opinion, to live up to their hype, it's now, because I think their defense is a little bit shaky. But I think they made some good picks on the defensive side. But I think it's put up or shut up time. And some of the other teams, I like what the Jaguars did on the defensive side of the ball. San Francisco, I'm still, getting Kinlaw. DeForest Buckner's gone, of course, got traded to the Colts. I like what they did getting Kinlaw, so that's an even trade. Arizona, again, I like what they did because in the second round they effectively got the wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins from Houston. So I like what they did. I'm a little worried about their offensive line for Murray. I thought that was a need for them, but maybe it can still all pan out. And as far as Tampa Bay, I liked what they did, getting Wirfs to anchor that line. That's their big weakness. I think that was Tampa's big weakness. And now that they can get some blocking for Tom Brady, they've got weapons. And they're going to be interesting to watch. Before we go to break, I saw that, it's now in place that Jameis Winston signed a 1-year deal with New Orleans. I love the pickup for New Orleans, getting him. I think it's I think it was smart on Jameis Winston. He's saying all the right things right now. He wants to learn from the best, and they are two of the best. Breeze and Peyton, their track record is proven. I think it's smart for him. He can learn from him, and if Breeze retires, there you go. There's their quarterback for the next 4 to 6 years. And he's familiar with the teams in his division. I like the pickup. I really do. And the other one real quick, and then we'll go to break. We'll go back to Philadelphia getting Jalen Hurts in the second round. I've thought long and hard about this. And I know Philly Pete, one of our hosts here, I know he was quite surprised with that. But I honestly like the pick. Now, Carson Wentz supposedly was consulted on it. He did sign a big deal, but Carson Wentz, as strong of an arm as he has and the talent level that he's got, he hasn't been able to make it through a whole year. And I think this is insurance. What I don't like is they're already comparing Jalen Hurts to Taysom Hill from New Orleans. I think Hurts is a better talent, and I think he's an underrated talent. Now, this could be another one where maybe Philadelphia might be able to turn this in a couple of years and trade him to a contender and get some good quality in return. I don't know, but I think he's good insurance, because I think that with the NFL going to a 17-game schedule starting next year, in that extra playoff game possibly, that's there. But then again, you could go back and have that argument with the Packers about Jordan Love. So it is very interesting to see. And again, time will tell on that. I honestly think that Hurts has more talent than Jordan Love. You got Jacob Eason going to Indianapolis. That's where I thought Hurts was going to go. I love the move with Indianapolis getting Eason. I love what they did in the second round. To be honest with you, I thought Indianapolis had a great draft. And I think them getting Taylor, that was huge. Huge. Great move by Indianapolis doing that. And because you've got Phillip Rivers there. He may play a couple of years at the most. But for Eason to be able to learn behind him, I think was a great move by Indianapolis. I really like that. We're going to take a break. We come back, we'll look into the latest G League signing and what it's going to do to the NCAA and where they're going to move going forward. So, hey, thanks for joining us here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. You're watching live here on the 12-Ounce Sports Network.
Nothing makes us happier at Lexington Law than when our clients cancel our services. Listen to this client call and see what we mean.
Lexington Law Firm, this is Erin.
I would like to cancel my account.
I'm sorry to hear that.
No, don't be. Actually, you guys have done tremendous work for me, and I was working with you for several years now, and my goal was to get a mortgage written by the end of this year, and I just got that mortgage commitment.
That is wonderful.
My credit went from like 440 working with you guys to 700.
Nice.
And I got a very good 4.25% 30-year fixed rate mortgage. I have nothing at all bad to say. If you ever want me to write a testimonial, well, I will. As a matter of fact, I've recommended you to a lot of friends.
Lexington Law has served over 500,000 clients, taking expert action on their credit that has led to the removal of millions of questionable negative items from their credit reports. Call now and learn more about how Lexington Law may be able to help you in the removal of negative items from your credit report, such as collections, late payments, charge-offs, and many others. Call Lexington Law today.
Esports are here to stay. Go to jazzsports.ag, log into your account, and look for our new esports section on the top of your screen. Browse through all the different available matches and watch them live with our exclusive esports betting platform. Get instant access to game results, pending and graded bet reports, outright bet types, and upcoming match schedules, all at the easy reach of your fingertips. Jazz Sports puts you in the game.
Drinkade, ready for distribution worldwide.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Captain Lou Extravaganza live here on the 12-Ounce Sports Network. We're here probably for about another 12 minutes or so. Thanks for taking time out of your lunch hour or your extended lunch or your late morning to join us here on the program. We want to thank everybody who does take their time out, and hopefully we can be a little distraction again for what's going on here in with our society and this, the situation with the pandemic. Again, I want to just remind everybody, without sounding too preachy, just stay safe, practice the social distancing. We're going to get through this, and we're going to overcome it. I'm 100% confident of that. And it might take a while yet, but we are indeed going to get through this. And for us sports fans, it may be a while yet, but we'll get the games back, and we're going to be, and when it does, it's going to explode, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be sports nirvana, I believe, once everything gets back going. But it could be a year from now, it could be 3 months from now, but whatever it is, we're going to be right there with you, and we're going to be covering it as best as we can. And if you know me well enough, and I'm going to be immersed in it as much as I can, and I'm looking forward to that day when we can have sports again as part of our lives. And so, again, in the meantime, just stay safe and be smart out there, because we want to have you with us when sports comes back, and we want to be having you giving your comments and whatnot and watching us here. And I truly appreciate everybody that takes the time out of their busy schedules, their days, their afternoons, and their nights with my show that's on Tuesday nights from 8 until 10 p.m. I really appreciate you all coming on and watching us here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. Well, we got the news today, or I believe it was today, maybe it was yesterday, about another decommit out of the NCAA, a 5-star out of UCLA, Deshaun Nix, deciding that he wants to go to the G League, to their new program that they're doing, where it looks like he's going to get probably $500,000 to play, one of the 5-star recruits. And it's interesting because now we've got the debate out there. Where is that going to be? What does that do to the NCAA? Because you also see now that the NCAA has come out with a proposal, or at least it's rumored that there's going to be a proposal coming from the NCAA Board of Governors that they're going to pass this along maybe to the schools or whatnot, but they're proposing maybe being a little more lenient and letting the athletes, student athletes, be able to make money with endorsements and whatnot, advertisements and everything. Some of the proposals that is rumored to be going out is allowing them to make money by modeling apparel as long as it doesn't have the school logo or school marks on it. They're going to be allowed to make money from advertisements as long as they're not, ballooned or whatever, kind of like a payola type of a thing. They could market products that don't conflict with NCAA legislation. For example, they can't go on and promote a gambling site or ban substances that may be in the NBA or the NCAA right now. And they can hire an agent to procure these opportunities as long as it doesn't seek professional sports opportunities during their college career. And they have to disclose everything, and that gets back to the payola sign of it. My question is, what I guess smells a little bit about the NCAA, I'm not surprised by it, but is how reactive they are. They can see what's happening right now with these athletes going to the G League. They're going to maximize on their potential. $500,000 is not a lot to sneeze at, or it's not. It's something that I don't know. It's awful tempting for a 5-star athlete to do that, and I can't say that I blame them. If they don't want to go to college, and if this is going to be a legit opportunity for them to hone their skills to make it to the next level, to the NBA, then I'm all for it. As far as the NCAA with these proposals to let the athletes make their money, I don't have a problem with it. They should have the right to be able to do that. And the universities aren't going to be paying them. And my thing with that is, if they're going to, I still think that what they're giving these athletes, is a lot. And I know I'm old school with that, but they're offering them a degree, free room and board, tuition, all the medical expenses that come along with it, the food, everything. And if they stay 4 years, that's upwards of $200,000. That's $40,000 to $50,000 a year at least. And that's a lot of money. Now, I get it. They're making millions upon millions of dollars off of their likeness. But this is an opportunity now for these student athletes to make a little extra money. And again, they have to report all this of what they're getting. And their biggest fear is getting overinflated money, for example, from a car dealership, giving them $100,000. What my thing is, I don't have a problem with that. If Joe Athlete, the star quarterback from the University of Michigan or Alabama or whatever, if they have the opportunity to go to a car dealer and they're willing to pay them $50,000, if the university's not doing it, I'm okay with it. I really am. If they're going to make $5,000 off of an advertisement from wherever, TV or radio, I guess I don't really have an issue with that. My thing is as long as the NCAA institutions aren't making that, aren't paying for that, they're giving them the scholarships. I get that. That to me is all that that these colleges should be giving them. But I guess my problem is it took the NCAA to do this, only because the G League is making their mark and they're starting to take some of their athletes away. Now, the argument where some people say that the NCAA is going to suffer by losing these athletes, I don't buy that. I think, the NCAA, regular season basketball in the NCAA, it's not exciting. Let's face it. They're starting now the end of October, beginning of November with these exhibition games, and it seems to drag. Where they make their traction is the March Madness. And that's not going to stop. You're going to get your guys, like around here that bleed the green and white of Michigan State. They're going to follow Michigan State no matter who's putting the jersey on. They're loyal. You're going to get the loyal fans at Kentucky, at Duke, UCLA, wherever, Wisconsin, Michigan. And it's going to be the same in football. They're going to follow these teams. It's going to maybe dent the quality a little bit, but do you really honestly think that the NCAA is they're going to lose money by this in the long run? They're still going to make tons of money. The NCAA tournament, March Madness, to me, is the best college tournament out there. College football is making a run at it with their Final Four right now. But March Madness is such a moneymaker. It's still going to be there no matter what. The NCAA, yeah, they're going to suffer again. The quality maybe, but it'll take a hit right now, but they'll recover from it. Trust me, they will. And if there was a way, if they didn't think that they were going to make any money on this, and they really thought that they were going to lose millions upon millions of dollars because these kids are going to the G League, then believe me, they'd be right there offering them $1 million somehow. They would. So there's a method to their madness. But again, the NCAA is no different than any other major corporation. They're not going to spend the money unless they absolutely have to. They're not going to dip into their reserves unless they absolutely have to. They don't want to take money out of their own pockets. So I really see how I'm not too worried about that with the NCAA. I think that they're going to be fine. And I honestly think that they're, this is a byproduct of the G League, but I think it's a long time coming. And you're going to see it. And I have no problem with these athletes making this money. But, as long as the universities are not paying it. Because they're giving these athletes a golden opportunity that the average person still doesn't get. The room and board, the tuition, the health care, whatever. That we don't, we as a normal student or whatever wouldn't have the opportunity to get. And, and the other thing that the athletes get, and I don't care what you say, is when you're looking for a job, if you don't make it to the pros or whatever, you go out into the real world after you get your degree. And if this progressive employer, knows that you were a college athlete, they'll put you to the front of the line, because, this is an athletic world. And plus they'll see that discipline that it took to get your degree, and that gets you doors open that the normal person won't. And I think that's where some of these athletes don't take advantage of that. And that's their own fault. But that's another high horse argument that we can bring up at another time. But anyways, wow, that's going to do it. Our hour's up here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. I thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule this afternoon for joining us. We'll be on tomorrow afternoon, 1 o'clock. We'll be inside again. The weather is a little bit frightful here in Michigan. We're hoping maybe Friday we can get outside and do a little fresh air matinee show for you Friday afternoon. And hopefully, check our Twitter handle and Facebook to see if we'll get any guests lined up. We're trying to effort some people to come on the show here in the next week or two. So, again, thanks for joining us this afternoon. Hope the rest of your day goes great. I know mine will. And keep positive. As I said, we're going to get through this, everybody. Don't you worry. Hey, this reminder, keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving, and as always, keep your minds open. Thanks for joining us, everybody, here on the show. And until tomorrow, so long. Thanks for joining us here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza on the 12 Ounce Sports Network.